All right, let's talk about the Super Bowl. This will be my last Super Bowl preview. I have left no stone unturned here. I have talked about everything, special teams, players left and right. We'll get into it. I'm going to have more of a laid-back video here. I've made a lot of real deep dives into specific things for this upcoming Super Bowl, and what I did was I created an ongoing list of who I thought was favored in each of those categories. This was said list. These are all of the Super Bowl preview videos I made. And in fact, there even was another one, my first reaction Super Bowl preview I made the Sunday night after the conference championships. So what we're going to do in this video, it's going to be more of a laid-back video. I'm just going to go through each of those, kind of give my Cliff Notes version of them, and then finally I will say who I think will win Super Bowl 59. Who is my prediction? I will if you're watching this, you might have already seen the podcast where I already gave my pick. However, I'm recording this before the podcast, so I'm still maybe making some decisions here before I have already come to those decisions since you've seen the podcast. So yeah, let's get into it. So first, Hurts' first Super Bowl, definitely you have to feel like that's an argument in Hurts' favor and in Philadelphia's favor. He did play very well in that Super Bowl. The Fangio versus Mahomes thing, I gave the edge to Mahomes because he is someone who, as a whole, does well, not just against Fangio, but against that kind of scheme in general. He's usually very good at being able to dink and dunk and find soft spots in zone coverage. Of course, part of that are some of his teammates. Saquon Barkley, so it's +2 Eagles. Keep in mind, obviously him as a player is a lot more than +2. It's just I do think the Chiefs have a chance to neutralize him in a way that like Washington wasn't able to. The Chiefs do have very good tackling defensive backs, and that's a big deal against a guy like Saquon. They might have to tackle. The Eagles' offensive line is very good, so that's just something you have to pay attention to. The tush push, I gave +5 Eagles. In the past two seasons, the Chiefs and Eagles have played each other twice. The Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they played each other in the regular season last year because they played in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. You have to assume that this is just, if it's a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1, the Eagles are going to convert. Yes, the Bills struggled with that, but I don't think the Chiefs have figured out the tush push. I think they figured out the Bills tush push. I think the Eagles is something different, and I think they'll still be successful there. A.J. Brown is another huge advantage for the Eagles because if you want to go all out to stop Saquon Barkley, that means one-on-ones of A.J. Brown, right? If you're playing single safety deep, in theory, you could leave the entire other field open and put Brown all the way over there. Not sure if that's a great strategy, though. So A.J. Brown, someone who you could have one-on-one matchups with. And listen, I like Jalen Watson. I like Trent McDuffie. A.J. Brown can beat anybody. He's just one of those guys. He has the most yards per route ran against man coverage in the league this year. You leave him one-on-one, he wins. That's just how it works. Maybe Kansas City can surprise me, but I would be surprised if they can cover him one-on-one all game. Chiefs offensive line against the Eagles defensive line, a really heavyweight matchup. I actually gave a slight edge to the Chiefs, which I think some people might be surprised by, but I do think that this Chiefs offensive line, for the most part, should be able to do okay in this game. Again, thinking about it now, you still have to assume the Eagles would probably win more reps than your average game, so I think giving the Chiefs the edge is probably unfair, but I don't know if it's going to be a whooping the way you might expect, given the fact that the Chiefs do have a guy in Mike Caliendo, their left guard, who started the game started the season, as a backup. I do also find the Jalen Carter aspect of this interesting. Do you put him on the backup, quote-unquote, guard, even though he's technically a starter now, the backup guard, but that would mean that you're getting double-teamed all the time? Or do you put him on the other guard, but Trey Smith's pretty good. Even if you get one-on-ones, it might not be what you want. You probably put him on the backup guard, hope you get some one-on-ones, and then maybe try to get some stunts and some pressures now schemed up because you know where the center is blocking. So yeah, definitely some ways you can get pressure, but maybe not the massive advantage that I think some people are making it out. Mahomes' rushing is a big deal for Kansas City. He runs a lot in the playoffs and even more in the Super Bowl and in key spots as well. If it's a 4th and 1, they're probably not running up the gut. They're probably running to roll out to Mahomes. At least you want a guy out there who can defend that, I think. Andy Reid, also a very good coach. I think his schemes tend to work against Fangio-like schemes, so he's done a great job. Honestly, this Chiefs coaching staff does not get enough credit for what they've done this season. The X's and O's have been phenomenal. They do so many creative things to get guys open. It's been great. The Eagles' offensive line is +4 Eagles. The only reason it's not +5 is Chris Jones. He can dock it down a point, right? And there's other players. Like, I like George Karlaftis, but just I don't see him getting consistent pressure against this offensive line unless somebody does get injured. The Chiefs do have a couple players who were playing through injuries in the conference championship game. You assume 2 weeks to get healthy will help, but could something get re-aggravated? That's an X factor, but it's a great Eagles offensive line. Travis Kelce, I still think will be a factor in this game. I know we can say he hasn't had his best seasons. His down seasons are still great seasons, right? He's still an incredible player, especially when it's against zone, which I think the Eagles will probably play a lot of. Kansas City downfield passing, you have to feel like the edge is to Philadelphia. Now, Xavier Worthy has kind of come on and been a really nice piece there, so I don't know, maybe there's something there. He has won downfield a bit when that wasn't really his game in college, other than if he was just running by you, which in the NFL you can't do as much, but he's kind of made some contested catches. Again, if Darius Slay is on Xavier Worthy, even though there is a speed advantage there, I don't know if you're trying that because you don't want to get to turn the ball over there unless it's wide open. I don't think they're going to pass the ball downfield too much. I would give the advantage to Philadelphia. Devonta Smith is another player who I think has a big advantage. I mean, again, I like Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, but you're going to get the better of those matchups. They're going to have to put attention on A.J. Brown in the passing game. That's kind of what makes Smith work so well. And a lot of times, it's not necessarily who's your best receiver, it's who are your next receivers. And Smith, and you see Dallas Goedert, who we'll talk about in a second, but Smith definitely can be a factor. What's worth noting is, as good of a season as Watson has had, he hasn't always had to play the best receivers. I went through it, and you look at the good number 2 receivers that that the Chiefs have had on the schedule. Usually they've been injuries. I mean, you had T. Higgins got injured before the Bengals game. Deebo Samuel was injured 4 snaps into the 49ers game. Both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were injured in that game, and Tank Dell got injured in the middle of the game against the Texans. So just kind of been weird where every time they've played teams with multiple receivers, one of them's been banged up. Doesn't mean he can't rise to the occasion, but it's just a wild card, I think, and it's interesting. Next up, Dallas Goedert, who I already touched on it for a second. The Chiefs haven't done great at defending tight ends this season. They're going to have one-on-one matchups that maybe that the Eagles can exploit, and Goddard's really good. So yeah, that's a +5. That's actually one I would say really keep an eye out for. I think he could have a big day. The Chiefs rushing, and that's not Mahomes. I'm not sure if I factored that into my video or not, but that's mostly talking about just their actual running with Kareem Hunt. I do feel like they can run the ball effectively, but it's the Eagles, and the Eagles stop the run better than the Chiefs run it. So I think there is a potential chance the Eagles could just shut down this running game, and if that happens, we haven't really seen that all year for the Kansas City. There's been games where they haven't run the ball great, but like if you can shut it down and you play good in the secondary, I'd be interested in seeing how Kansas City reacts to that. They'll probably do fine to have Mahomes, to have Andy Reid, but could you get some extra stops there? Absolutely. Zach Bond is another massive advantage for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's an all-pro for a reason, and he's exactly where the Chiefs want to attack. The Chiefs attack over the middle. Zach Bond doesn't get out of position. I mean, to me, those are the 2 biggest advantages that the Eagles have, which is both over the middle. Dallas Goedert and Zach Bond, they need those 2 guys to show up if they're going to win this game. Patrick Mahomes is +5 for the Chiefs. I don't care who's going up against. It's going to be the maximum amount of points. That's what's going to happen. He is, he's the best player in football. We all know it. And he has a knack for getting it done in the big moments as well. Jalen Hurts, I still think is a good player. He's just not Mahomes. +3 for the Eagles. I still like him. And then for special teams, I just think that Jake Elliott's missed some field goals as of late. Well, he hasn't missed field goals. He's missed some extra points as of late. That's a little concerning. So, yeah. As a whole, you see the number at the bottom is very high in the Eagles' favor, which was kind of expected. That's kind of how these 2 teams are built in a sense. The Eagles have all of these small edges, but the Chiefs have a few major ones. Really, the Patrick Mahomes factor. I think Mahomes is so good that I still think that this Eagles defense, while it's good, will not be able to fully slow down the Chiefs offense, in my opinion. And while I think the Eagles have enough advantages elsewhere, it's just, I just can't, I can't really pick against the Chiefs at this point. I think this is the Super Bowl that could go either way. I do. I don't look at this as, oh, well, Chiefs are going to win. Thanks for showing up, Eagles. I kind of agree that I think the line is like 1.5 points in favor of the Chiefs. That feels fair for me. Like, I think I'm going to slightly lean Kansas City. My prediction when I made my first video was 26-23 Chiefs in overtime. I feel like I got to just stick with that. That feels like a fair prediction because they have really the quarterback, and they have other players too. Their defense is still very good. Their secondary is very good. They have Chris Jones, right? They have Nick Bolton. There is a lot of talent on this Chiefs roster, but of course it is mostly it's mostly Mahomes is the reason I'm picking him. If Mahomes gets hurt play one, then I'm obviously picking. If both quarterbacks got hurt on play one, I'd pick the Eagles to win, if that makes sense. But and I like Hurts. I'm not a Hurts hater. I like Mahomes more. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. That is my final Super Bowl prediction. The next time you will see me, we will be talking about the Super Bowl itself. It'll be when I'm making videos for the Super Bowl. So make sure you're looking on this channel to see all the big plays and events that happen there. But, yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.